Here's a place where all of us can be safe. Our stories of transformation can be safe, and all the things we want to research are safe here. This is Safe Space with Cheyenne. I'm really excited you're here, and I hope you stick around for a while, because I've got a lot to show you before I leave Earth. I love you guys. Hello, hello, hello. Mic check. Are you there, my friend? Are you there? Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Yes, and I have a pretty badass guest. I'm not even gonna lie. I had so much fun talking to him on the meet and greet is kind of what I think about it. But me and Master Bey were so excited to record this episode that we thought we were doing it yesterday, and we were messaging each other and we were being like, hey, you ready for tomorrow? And then I was like, oh man, I gotta wait 2 days to talk to you. Damn it. So here we are. Welcome to the show, Master Bey. I'm so excited for you to join us and tell us all the wonderful things you're doing and obviously how you got into your work. But I just want to say welcome to the show, and I'm so freaking happy you're here.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be here too. Yeah, I was so excited yesterday. I was like, the day before, I was like, yeah, get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, you ready for this? You ready? And I was like, oh, dude, we have like 2 days.
I know.
What are we doing living in the future?
Man, yeah, I was juiced. I was very, very juiced. I'm excited, to talk about it because you got good energy. And the conversation just flew very, very nicely. Plus, I think we be diving into similar things. So
very true. Energy work is one of my favorite things to talk about. And I know there's like plenty of energy modalities out there, right? Like there's not just like one way to do it. But my favorite thing is truly understanding we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So like lately, right? I think you'll like this. Hope you will. I picked up a book the other day that said, after the ecstasy comes the laundry. So it's written from kind of like a Buddhist standpoint where they teach you after you have an awakening, however you get to your awakening, whether you are dick punched from the universe like I am, or maybe you're slow cooked into an awakening like other people I've heard. But then they talk about how to integrate your awakening back into being a physical being with knowing you can't go back to the way you were after you woke up. So I've been needing to read books like that because I'm like, what the hell do I do now? I'm going to a supermarket acting like not my old self anymore. I'd be reading,
you can't unknow.
And when you know, and you're just like, God, I don't want to be like, I'm so weird, because now I think, everybody else that's like poisoning the shit out of themselves is weird. Like, oh, it's fine. My body will take care of it.
Nah.
But it's weird, dude. It's absolutely weird. Like, what were you doing before you started getting into like wanting to teach breath work and like inner balance, shadow work, energy work? Like, what were you like, and what did you view all of this stuff before you actually got into it?
That's a good question. So I'll say, let me start with how I viewed it first. How I viewed it, I probably didn't take it as serious as now, as far as in, I always knew it was real since I was little. I had my little experiences with energy work. I was big into cartoons. I think Dragon Ball Z and Power Ranger got me started, like I told you before. I was like in second grade. And so that's kind of where it started. But I started taking it probably more serious around 10th grade, 10th and 9th grade. I got into a sociology class. I grew up in Oakland. I'm from Detroit originally. So I grew up in Oakland. I was in this class called Trying to Uplift My Folks. So it's basically a sociology class, but it dived semi into metaphysics as well. And that's kind of where I started to take the approach, because one of our instructors was introducing us to meditation, yoga. So it was like the first place where I was starting to get actually trained, or actually to kind of get the semi-basic skills, or basics into it, And from there, I kind of just started diving in deeper and deeper. I started getting infatuated with books, especially Tai Chi, martial arts, and anime. It was probably the trifecta of, things that kind of just started to bring things together. And then also around that time, I'm a little older. Graduated in 2007. So yeah, I'm a little got a little age on.
Graduated in 2009. We ain't far apart.
Oh yes, yeah, okay.
And I'm still young. If anybody tries to tell me I'm old, I'm like, no.
Big punch,
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I feel good for 32. I don't
know. Maybe it's because of the gray hairs. So many gray hairs popping up.
It's just wisdom popping out, honey. That's all that is.
I'm like, ooh, man, the 34 feel like, ooh. No, but so around that time, I say, because you was you graduated around 2009. You remember around that time period what things was like with the trends and whatnot. And I will say that there wasn't as much information about it how it is right now, but it was still light things out there with a lot of books. I know Montauk Chia was taking off a lot. It was other spiritual teachers that were doing pretty good, but it was the Tai Chi books that I started getting into. A lot of the Taoism, and I believe because the correlation was so connected heavily to the animations that I was watching. So it was like everything that was happening in the cartoons, I was seeing it or reading it, and I was like, oh yeah, it's more legit than what I was thinking. It was like the thoughts and the theory becoming more concrete, especially when YouTube came out, or I had seen something on YouTube, and YouTube was in its early stages then. It was something with a man called John Chang. They called Dynamo Jack. It was the video, one of the earliest videos of him. I think it was an early recording from the late 80s, early 90s. And I had seen him do something that I had only seen in the cartoons. And I was like, oh yeah, it's real. I knew the energy work and everything. It was more concrete than how it was just being presented in the cartoons. And then at that time too, Marvel and DC cinema was also starting to take off. So you have a lot of these movies that was being put out that was a lot of heavy metaphysical ideas and concepts were being pushed. They were starting to. It wasn't as big as the Avengers and where Marvel is right now, but you was seeing the foundation being laid, and you were seeing where they was going with it. So I guess overall, long story short, I just kind of got it was cartoons, that class, and just my little experiences that kind of just took it to a whole different level, and me just actually practicing, because someone could tell you about something and you can see it, watching it, but there's no experience like when you do it yourself. When you do it yourself and you have, even if it's something like a little fraction of something, you're like, oh,
Oh,
it's
just like
enough.
the subtle energy is the best way that I can describe that when you say that. Absolutely. I had that moment too, but my logical brain really wanted to kick it out real quick. I was like, you made that shit up.
See, because the logical brain, or I want to say, it's more of your matrix brain, It's the brain that develops from when I'll say maybe 4 or 5, your imagination is still heavy, but the world and society is starting to push things on your brain, and they telling you like, no, that's not real, or oh, that's just a movie, or oh, that's just imagination,
or, they'll think you're weird.
Right, it start compartmentalizing, and trying to categorize. So for a child or for someone, who's still developing, you are taking that and you are putting it in its place, and you are separating the reality from reality, because you're in that stage where it's such a blurred line, things that's like you have a daughter, so I'm pretty sure like when she playing with her dolls or she outside, it could be a backyard for us, but she see a vast forest, and depending on what point of view you're looking from it from, if you was a spider or ant, it would be a vast forest, So it's I don't know, it makes you think about things differently, and it's more your perception And once you start to be able to switch your perception, you know, you can start dimension hopping, or you start reality hopping, because your reality may be different from somebody else's reality until you put yourself in their shoes and start seeing from their point of view. Now you're experiencing their reality, you know? So
very true.
I know that was random, but it went all over the place.
No, that's how it should be. You know, it shouldn't. I don't want to be two talking heads sitting here being like, all right, you got 30 seconds, make it good. It's like, yeah, your answers should be long. We're talking about energy and just the breaking down of it, because I love that you talk about the programming of the left hemisphere of the brain, the matrix brain, the reptilian logical side, the masculine side, right? The protective side. All that information is going to come through the right brain. And I always tell people, like, picture like a big bouncer on the other side of your ear, because like that information comes in and then it decides what gets to go to the right brain. You know, that's why a lot of creative people, honestly, like, they smoke hella weed, because it relaxes that hemisphere of the brain. And I always picture the right side of the brain like this super cool hippie in a dress, just in a field, like, let it go, man. So the right side, the feminine, the creative, like, they finally get a chance. But in society, we are all obviously taught how to do the left brain 10 times more. So when you're trying, like, you're seeing this and you're like, make it logical, like, make me understand it from the logical. And then something just clicks one day and you're like, this is now a part of my belief system based on this direct experience and based on this research that I've had. And that's when the doors really start opening up, because now you realize, holy shit, I didn't even know that I wasn't even using one whole hemisphere of my brain. That's insane. You know, like, and that's where my curiosity, that's where my curiosity lied when I woke up and I started studying all that stuff. I was like, man, how much creativity have I missed out on in like the last 15 years? You know,
but you have to get to the point to where you even noticing it, you know, like a lot of people don't even notice that, you know, like, it's the little things that make the big things. And something so small as noticing that, you know, one side of your brain operates different than another time. So when are you operating with which side? Is it a certain time period? Is it, you know, a certain state, you know, that you have to be in? Is it a certain emotion that's connected to it? What is the driving force or the factors that determine which side is going to be used? And so it's like, then it's like, are you aware to, or are you able to mix around, you know? Can you mix around at will? Or is it something that you don't have any control of? You know, our brains and our bodies are extremely fascinating. They do so much, but we don't really get shown how to tap into it to its full potential. I say we don't even get shown how to tap into it to a semi-fraction of, you know, like 5% really. We just use the basic instructions that we get from the generation previous, you know, and most of that information was something that was kind of indoctrinated anyway. So it's like you only got enough to kind of like, you know, just, you know, what's the status quo. You didn't really get to dive deep or to really push the barriers or to really discover what it is that you can do. Well, I know most of our the generations before us didn't really, you know, they wasn't into it. it was not like, nah.
To it, right? Yeah, I mean, they were on a whole different, like, survival path. I love to think of like Dolores Cannon's research when it talks about like the three layers, 3 levels, 3 something of volunteers. I can't even think of what it is right now, but they talk about how like certain ones come in to like build the infrastructure of Earth. So like they're not here to wake up. They're here to like serve humanity in like this incarnation. Then the next wave, like it was talking about like the Vietnam era where like peace and love and hippie culture and no war, like that came in, and that was like a really big awakening on the planet for the collective consciousness. And then the world kind of went back to sleep after that to rebuild after all of that. And now you're seeing a resurgence of a greater percentage of awakening, and now you have more people speaking on it. And I always tell people, like, no matter what we're talking about, we're playing telephone with the divine language. whether no matter what country it needs to originate in. Like, I had this happen because there's a few Buddhist temples in town, but there's a huge one. And I saw it was Lao Buddhism. And so I called my friend that's a Buddhist and I was like, hey, I really want to go check out this temple. And I'm starting to realize I don't know shit. I don't know the shit that I thought I knew about Buddhism. Like, there's so much Buddhism. Can you kind of break this down for me? Because, like, I'm trying to respect this when I go in and observe it. And we were talking not only about, like, Zen Buddhism, like, there's so many different types. I wish I had my list in front of me, right?
No, it's a lot of Buddhism.
But then like in parentheses, it was talking about like the country of origin. So I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Because they're going to say, just like in yogic texts, it's different lineages. And I'm like, I understand lineages, but I'm also seeing like, hey, when Buddhism was over here, now this is Japanese Buddhism. Now this is...
different sects.
Yeah, different sects of it. And I was just like, this is so interesting. Because I know, obviously, like Christianity, Catholicism, Methodist, Baptist, Pentecostal, like all of these breakdowns that sometimes still use the same Bible. So I was kind of thinking of it like that. But they're like, no, this is lineages. This is more in like yoga texts. Like they're going to go through like different family lines, basically. And I was just like, this just kind of blew my mind, like how this whole door just opened up. But again, it came from like one, like Buddha is one person. So then you wonder all of the different translations that have come and added onto it after it. And that's kind of what we do when we even have these discussions. It's just like, I'm not the master of this. I'm not the creator of any of these things that I'm discussing, but it went into my brain and this is how I saw it. This is how I experienced it. And that's my favorite part about having them too, is I know that we've had completely different energetic experiences, but when we talk to each other, it was like, whoa, dude, that happened to you? That's crazy. How do you go out in public knowing shit like that happens to people?
Man. Let me pick. I gotta piggyback off of two things that you said that made me think about two different things. One, as far as with the timelines you were saying, what Dolores Candace was talking about, the three different waves, it made me think about, I don't know if you're familiar with stocks or metal or trading. If you ever seen these trading charts, you know how it goes up and down. I started getting into this maybe a couple of years ago, trading. And at first it was just strictly, to get my finances. But I see the correlation between trading and energy more than anything else. Because the way the markets move up and down is the way how energy flows. When energy flows, it's not in a straight line trajectory. People think like these awakenings are just, or it don't work like that. It's it's everywhere, and that's how it is with trading. And when you had said the three different phases that came in, it made me think about first phase going up, and then it was a pullback as far as for the peace movement came in, and then it went to sleep and then went back again, and now the second, or where we are with the third wave is coming in, and it's like it went one, boom, 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 because this wave that's coming in right now, it is to mold the system that was created before that peaceful generation came. Because it's also interesting that you say that when you look at the different stages that America has went through, from the 40s on to right now, we took a lot of different jumps, a lot of leaps, and a lot of it's been a big shift in each decade compared to right now. It's probably been what is that? Almost 9, maybe almost more than 10, maybe 8, 9. I'm not sure how many more, but around each one had its own significant, its own energy that it came in with. And I believe that when it comes to semi off topic, but micro macro thing, the energy that we are going into right now from 2020, the shift from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, where we're in right now, a lot of the mentality is being outdated the mentality from the previous generations is outdated like the technology is. It's a similar thing. And a lot of people want to bring those mentalities and the states of mind that they had into this time period and to where we're going, and it don't work. You can't use that old Metro, Nokia phone with these services right now. It's not going to work like that.
True.
So I think, like the technology, people have to upgrade, and I think that's also what a lot of doing the work right now, a lot of doing this energy work, a lot of these awakenings, a more consistent, whether it's solar or global or the social consciousness or movements. It's each one is a new level upgrading and saying, hey, put that old stuff behind, get with the new. You may take a little piece of it to mold into the new, but it has to fit the new. If you do not fit the new, you can't move forward. You can't, like I said, you can't use that Nokia phone from 2005 right now. It ain't gonna fly. So that was the first thing that I had to speak on. The second thing was the Buddha thing. So interesting. I had come across, and I don't know how legit this is, but it made a whole lot of sense when I heard it, and also when I have my own little meditations and connections as well. I feel that it's a misconception about the Buddha thing. Like, I think people think that it is, like you said, there was a lot of different sects of Buddhas. Yes. So apparently there are hella Buddhas. like as far as like the Buddha is and this is it came off to me in a meditation, and it was a deep meditation. But apparently, the Buddha is a mind. It's like it's a Buddha mind. It's a state of consciousness. Everybody has their own individual Buddha mind. Like everybody has their own guardian angel, or they have their own lower entity. Everybody got their own stuff, their own pack that they come with. A Buddha mind, or your Buddha mind, is also one of those things that come, with you, and it like connects you to the oneness. It's different than when you're moving up, maybe dealing with your higher self, depending on who you are, But apparently, it is Buddhas in multiple dimensions, on multiple levels, in multiple parallel universes. Like, and this is where it gets kind of wacky. Like animal.
You're speaking my language.
Like, for example, for something like an ant or a spider, in its own reality or its own version on higher level, it would be a Buddha for that ant or for that spider. Like it would be an angel, for that ant or spider, ones that deliver. As the consciousness raise up, they become more aware. And the communication, or for the messages of what they are putting out there, is being sent or picked up by that Buddha mind, of the spider or of that angel. Like how, if you send a prayer, and I know that sounds like really, really random, but apparently this is a thing, And the reason why I had said that was because of the when it comes to doing this spiritual work, and regardless of whatever the religion or whatever the spiritual system you decide to go with, it's not a one thing fits all, and it's not one way to the top of the mountain. There's so many different ways to the top of the mountain, like hella different ways, And regardless if you walk in the left path or the right path or the middle path, you can get to the top of the mountain, because it's just about doing the work. So I say that to say, like, again, regardless of whatever path you decide to take, you can get to that place to where your consciousness is raised up into where you are starting to work with more divine or even just higher energies, because your state of awareness or your consciousness is higher. It's like a gym, It don't matter if you are It don't matter if you're a prisoner, a politician, a police officer, or a student. If you go into the gym to exercise, you're going to exercise. It doesn't matter about your belief system. It doesn't matter about, what you decide to do with these muscles. None of that matter. If you're putting in the work, you're going to get something in return for putting in the work. So I say that to say, because a lot of people be thinking that it's just a light and love and holding, all of that. And then, nah, that's not what this is. Just like, you feel me? If you're doing all of that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to move on to the next level, because that is not just doing the work. Yes, it's good to be kind to people. It's good to help people. But that's not only the work. You have to do the work. So, I just wanted to say that, because a lot of people,
this conversation segueing into bypassing, and what is spiritual bypassing, and what is the poisoned movement of new age and and the love and light movement, which I think is so annoying.
It's very misleading and misguiding, because a lot of people, and then especially because you got some people, whether they're waking up for the first time, or whether they're in a position where they're coming from their religious system, and the new age movement is pushed so heavy, and it's like, as far as, like, I don't know who bought the promotions for it, but it's everywhere, like out there, like heavy, and people would assume from jumping from one thing to the next thing, and you just trading one master for another master, and you ain't really doing the self inner work, or you thinking that something is all gumballs and raindrops, or gumballs and butterflies and rainbows, when that's not necessarily what it is. Sometimes you got to weather the storm. Sometimes you got to be out there and get wet and look at the storm, like watch the lightning. You feel me? Listen to the thunder. It's not all sunshines and rainbows. And
feel it to heal it is really what comes to mind when you say that too. Yeah. And I know, like, there's times where, I'll just go ahead and categorize it as shadow work, or like purging. Like, these feelings are coming up that I really don't like feeling. I know it's a part of the process. I know I'm telling myself these are bad feelings, but I'm the one who's identifying them as bad. It's really just a part of the path, right?
Yeah.
But I still have
what makes you identify them as bad?
Yeah,
like how did you get to categorize them as bad?
Over. I will grab my notebook and be like, listen, bitch. It's been a minute. What do you need me to focus on? What do I need to heal? What do you need me to pay attention to? Because, outside of feeling like this, I'm still going to have to put my mommy mask on. I'm still going to have to put my wife mask on. I still have to, do the laundry. I still have to do all of the human things. And I'm honoring all of this healing stuff that I would like to do. But I also think that there's like an addiction to healing that you can get into in it. And I was talking to another guest about like the rites of passage when you wake up, and the things that you have to go through and experience yourself. You can read like a million books and be like, oh, I don't want to go through that. Okay, I won't bypass. I won't do that. But I've noticed literally if you focus so hard on not bypassing, you'll bypass. It's the weird like law of attraction thing almost. Where
it's your emotions.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about that before. Like, it's your thoughts are electric, but your emotions are magnet. So it's like you may be thinking about something and you putting it out there, but you feeling something completely different, and you may be pulling it back on the more of the negative pole. More of the you may be a negative Nancy with it. And that's the thing about what I don't like about the new age movement is they don't really talk about dealing with that side, because you got to have pros and cons. You're going to get everything comes with everything. If for example, if you got a fruit tree in your backyard, yeah, you got fruit. You know, once it blossom, it bloom. You pick those fruits, you eat them. You know, like make some pie. It's good. But if you don't pick them, or you know, if you don't tend to them, and they fall all over the place, and they rot and they mess up your yard, and then you know you end up got to clean it up. You know, it's abundance going to waste. But you know, so it's just dependent on how you dealing with it, how you are interpreting it. You know, but a lot of people just be like, oh yeah, peace, 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 love, love, love. You know, if anything bad happens, kind of put it to the side, or you
Right.
know, transform it. No, you got to acknowledge it, deal with it, look at it. It's something there that you need for your soul growth. You need the growth. It's something that you got to learn, that you have to retain from this situation, that you need to apply or acknowledge, or just be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to look at things differently. And it could be something that simple. But if you never want to deal with the things that you don't like, you know, the stuff that makes you uncomfortable, then you kind of just like running away. And like you said, you know, I think a lot of people are jumping on the new age movement, the love and light only, because they are uncomfortable dealing, or they're comfortable dealing with, or they're not comfortable dealing with uncomfortable, and they kind of want to they want the fluffy ride, you know, they want the fluffy feel good, you know, like, hey man, as long as I'm peace, love, and light, I don't got to deal with the problems that I had, or you know, my trauma or anything. No, it doesn't work like that. But they try and push it like it works like that, you know. And I feel like that's
It's
I feel
terrifying,
like
in
that's
my opinion.
man. I feel like that's like a spiritual assassination, you know. Like it's like it's a spiritual suicide. You are literally not trying to deal with an aspect of yourself. You know, like people look at the shadow and they assume that it's just a negative. No, that's not. It don't. Everything is not all good and everything is not all bad. You know, it's usually never that, regardless of how bad something may be or how good something may be. You're going to see pros and cons of it, because everything is the law of one. You know, and it's like, when you start dealing with these higher universal principles, you start seeing things differently. And it's like, I wouldn't say go out your way to look for trouble, or you feel me, to cause yourself pain. But if you do have it, that you have, you know, it's been there and it's a situation that you went through, you know, look at it and see, how did it transform your life? What is the lesson in it? You know, what is it? For some people, it's the reason why they become successful. It's the reason why they make the breakthroughs. If you didn't have that painful, traumatic experience, can you honestly say that you would be who you are today? You know, it's what do they call it? I love movies and cartoons, and Spider-Man, the little, what is it? The Across the Spider-Verse, the new one that just came out. They was talking about, it's the hero moment, you know, or it's a critical moment that everybody needs. You know, certain stuff that, you know, is just what elevates us. You know, it's the make or break moment. And for some people, if you don't get that make or break moment, you may never get to really push yourself to be who you are or who you should become. You know, what you came down here, you incarnated to this vessel to really do. You don't know if it's a little thing or if it's a big thing. You know, everybody not here to save the world. You could just be somebody that's acknowledging something that happened to you, and you tell your story to somebody else, and they save the world because you told your story to them. You never know how these things work, you know? So yeah, the new age just they irk me.
That is such a great way to think about it, though, too. Especially, I mean, storytelling is how I've learned. Just sitting and listening to people and them giving me like little golden nuggets of themselves. And half the time they don't even realize it, right? Because they're just telling, you know, a story that they've lived. They can't really see it from that outside perspective. And
Yeah.
I mean, from a young age, I have absolutely enjoyed sitting and having, we call them campfire talks, because you know, you about to get deep if you sit around a campfire long enough, especially with the right people.
Yeah, that's true.
And so many, I mean, so many of the social interactions, they really were like surface level for the most part, which isn't a problem. I know that I've struggled more with that since the awakening because I've had such attraction to deeper knowledge, you know, things with like substance, I think is the best way that I could say it. But still at the end of the day, like even just talking about someone's life, how they grew up, what's nostalgic to them now. Like, for instance, my grandma I had, I love going and listening to her stories when she was alive. And she told me she lived by, like, I think it was the Illinois or the Mississippi River. I can't remember. I think it's the Illinois River. But they would row their boat out to the main canal in their little pretty dresses back then. And they would wave at all the Navy boys on the boats as they were leaving. And they'd be like, "Hi, boys." And then they would row their boat back to the shore. And just hearing that and, like, being able to picture it, and, like, that was so fun for her. Like, they're like, we weren't supposed to do that, you know? And, like, you're not going to go to grandma and be like, "Grandma, you need to wake up, all right?" Like, you don't even know. Like, there are people, they really do just come in for a certain job, a certain lifestyle, a certain whatever. And I'm not, like, I don't want to be like, not everybody came to ascend and be enlightened. But it just hits people differently. And I know that there's, like, so many more types of awakening. Like, I know there's people that have been baptized and have felt the Holy Spirit in their body. You can consider that a rebirth or awakening as well. They've obviously went down the path to follow the King James version of Jesus Christ, is the way that I would like to say it. But at the end of the day, that's so much soul evolution. And since there's an ignorance and higher self and oversoul, and we've been taught, like, this is all we are, right? This is all we get. Like, you just get to be Grandmaster Bey. I just get to be Cheyenne, physically incarnated. And when I'm done, I'm done. And if I'm good, I get everlasting life, whatever that means, in heaven with all my past loved ones. Or if I don't do good, then I'm fucked. And I can't really subscribe to that now, especially like when science is even getting into frequency and vibration,
everyone and everything,
dimensions and densities. And I mean, don't even get me started on like alien contact, but
everything.
It's still really hard for me to subscribe for that. But I also have really tried and continue to try to just observe and don't attach other people's beliefs and wonder, like, why do you believe that? I mean, that's why the safe space is here, because ultimately I think I'm so curious of, like, how, like, what is God, what is source, what is creator to you? Why do you believe that? Have you ever questioned why you believe that?
Most people haven't.
Yeah.
Most people never ask that question to themselves. They would not go against their foundation or what they have, like, since they've been little. No, they wouldn't even contemplate on it. The only way that they have those moments, and again, this is why I said, you know, those traumatic experiences, why, you know, sometimes they be the gift, is because when the traumatic, scary, spooky things that happen that make people be like, man, I don't know what to do. You question everything, then, you know, everything gets questioned. And then you start to reorganize, and because you are having a emotional moment, you know, and for some people they'd be like, oh, that's ludicrous, or oh, that's you're acting irrational. But that moment is probably your most logical moment, or you are going to be in the most logical mind frame than you have ever been, because you are detaching yourself from your belief system. You are detaching yourself from the things, your foundation that you have been given, and you are now questioning everything. And when you start to question everything, you start to seek answers. And when you seek those answers, then you can decide to keep or to give what you don't like, you know, or you keep what you like and what fits for you, and you let go and release what doesn't, you know. But if you never ask the question, you never swapping out, you know.
Yeah,
And most people, they operate on I feel like they operate in stages. Like I think honestly it is, I feel like it has to do with the time period that you're born in, and the energy that you're born under. But it also may be, it's hella different factors. But you got the time frame, the what things are enlightened or aligned. Then you have your own individual soul contract and your own soul evolution. Then you have your genetic line that plays a part, physically, mentally, or on the spiritual level, or more on the biological level. So the things that are passed on genetically, like epigenetics, trauma in your DNA.
Epigenetics is a huge freaking factor in waking up and just bringing that stuff into your awareness. Holy shit, I love when people bring that up. But as soon as you brought it up, I was like, beep, 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 stop,
because
stop. Yes.
The work that you doing, you passing on to the next, because it's already in your DNA. So you doing the work. You may not complete the task, but you passing it on to the next generation for you to start doing work too.
Did you feel like that when you had your kids though too? Like when you had your little girl, like what did you already understand, like epigenetics, generational trauma, and started any of that healing? And then when you had her, you were like, shit, I wish I'd have figured that out before I had her.
I knew a little bit about it. I knew about like how it worked, but I didn't really dive deep into it. Or I'll probably say I didn't really get a real great understanding of it until maybe January of this year, or I'll say maybe like December. That's when I started really diving deep into how it really works and passing on trauma, and how because I started looking at it as, you never look at one thing just as one thing. It's not just a physical thing, So the way you will pass on physical traits, you can pass on mentalities or certain thought processes with the foundations that you give, But then there's two different ways to pass it on. One, you pass it on from a practice. Like, for example, your daughter is born. From as soon as she come out the womb, and you are implying or implementing those things at practice, foundation. You passing it on in two different ways. It's in your genes, but it's also in her environment and in her daily routine. So it's being engraved. Another way you could pass on just straight through the work that you did, and it's just straight in the genes. And if she starts to do something that is similar or connected indirectly or directly to that thing, then it'll unlock, You could pass on skills. If you're a barber, or if you're a painter, or you play the piano, you do that every day. For example, like an athlete, Steph Curry is great. His brother is pretty good too, but their dad was, also in the NBA. So it's not a coincidence, that is like, So you passing it on like that. Then you also have is certain gifts, but also certain things with different entities, that passed on epigenetics. If you do something, maybe you do a contract with an entity or with a being, or working with element, or working with something, and you establish a strong generation, you passing it on because you established that. That's why for some ancient tribes that have like a certain sigil, a certain totem, a certain thing that they working with, that they've been passing on for generation, and everybody in the bloodline is connected to it. Whether it be for some, it's dealing with certain animals, whether it be the crow, the raven, the owl, it could be jaguars, whatever the animal. Some is it's actual like natural elements, like dealing with the water, or dealing with a certain river, or some dealing with storms and tornadoes. It depends on what it is that you decide to do that contract with. And when you establish that contract and you reinforce that contract over time, practice, ritual, then you putting in that energy, you are playing a ping pong, a weave game, a weave and ping pong game, back and forth. The threads, the energy threads is getting stronger between the two. So even though you may leave this realm when you pass or when you move on to the next, the thread is still there. It's still attached to your DNA, your energy frequency. So because your child, your grandchild, or so on still has that energy thread, it is established relationship already. Like, for example, if your dad and somebody in, let's say, New York, they're the best friends. Y'all may have played as children, and you don't even remember. 10 years later, y'all end up going to the same school. And y'all like, man, we just vibe together for some reason. 10 years later after that, you're like, man, yeah, that's my best friend, or real good friend. I haven't seen you in years. And then you see y'all meet each other's parents, and they're like, oh, we know each other. And you're like, what? It's random. But the relationship has already been established. So the rapport is already there. It's easier to work with, And I think people may not be aware that the as above, so below thing applies to many things, even something as little as that, And your DNA has so much in it. And because, like you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents, and so on and so on. Each one of them had their own personalities. They had their own skills. They had their own thought process, had their own way of doing their finances or doing them with their social life, their own spiritual practices, everything. When you get a piece of that and their greatest strengths as well as their weaknesses and their flaws, and it just comes together for you. And depending on how you live in your life, you are going to wake up to certain skills or certain traits or certain habits or certain things, depending on what is done in your environment consistently and what, for example, what does your parents do and how far is that thing from their parents, Like if it was something like a sport, for example, and you 3rd generation, you're probably going to be really, really good at that sport, especially if they started you from when, you started crawling or when you started walking. They're keeping up that tradition, So,
that's so amazing. What a great frickin' answer. Great.
I was just...
Let it go. Okay, so let's get into the services that you obviously offer. Like, if I come to you and I want to work with you, how are you going to, one, make me feel comfortable being like, hey, I want to come to you and work with you. Here's my shit, right? I found this. I want to fix this. I'm not stuck with these characteristics of my personality. Do you walk them through breath work, shadow work? How, kind of run down the process for me.
Okay, so personally, my focus is on energy work and breath work. That's I feel like you can get a lot of things rolling with just those 2 alone. But for every individual is different. I'll make profiles. So I take a lot of my experiences from working in the traditional medical field and kind of bring it over to doing the energy work. But I just apply it differently. So I would have to know. And then for sometimes when I'm making my profiles, I ask questions to where it may not necessarily be directly related, but I will show you how it swings around to the connection later. So depending on what it is, the issue that you're trying to work on, or for some people, it's not really an issue. They just want to gain more. They want to do more spiritual work. They want to evolve more energetically. So breathing exercises, energy work, definitely the shadow work. Regardless if you are trying to gain something, you don't really feel like you have an issue, or if you feel like you do have issues that you need to work on, diving into the shadow or diving into the subconscious and the other things, because it let me know what kind of skills, what kind of gifts you have, what kind of path you should be on. And then after we have the plan, or we gather the information of what it is, then it's different. It's actually applying it, physically. So is different routines or different things to do that will help you get to where it is that you are trying to get to, But it all depends on the person, there's no results guaranteed by me, because it all has to do with the work that you're willing to put in. I feel the more comfortable you can be being uncomfortable, the better you will, because for most people, they want to deal with their trauma, but they're not comfortable touching on the subject. So it's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to go deep in this right now, like feel it to heal it.
You have to, and then it's like, for a lot of stuff, it's like, don't think that it's just a go away thing, like the purpose of it is not to make it go away. It's to be able to, acknowledge it and not run from it, or acknowledge it and not let it control you, or acknowledge it and not let it ruin your life, It's just to acknowledge it, deal with it, and, learn from it, grow from it, and, move forward. You may need to pass on your information or your experience or the way you dealt with that experience to somebody else, or you may need to use the way that you dealt with that experiences for the next thing that you're going to deal with or, have issues with. So it just depends. Again, I say the focus is with breathing and energy, because energy is all emotions, or emotions is energy and motion. And most people problems are emotional problems, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, whether it's mental. It's always an emotional stem. So always got to target that. And with the breathing, it's easier to shift the emotion with different types of breathing exercises. So that was always my favorite go-to. So I feel like you can get a lot of almost anything done with just energy and breathing, and
Well, you're moving, again, that energy and motion, that emotion, you're moving it through your body.
This is true.
I saw a video the other day where they were talking about, like, just watch animals in nature, and they saw, it wasn't a pretty video, I was just flipping through TikTok and crazy shit popped up, but it was like, hey, watch this clip, because this is going to show you how animals literally re-regulate their nervous system, like after being attacked like that, which if you're attacked in whatever, way that attack happens to you, it's still going to be a traumatic response. It's going to be a traumatic memory, and like your body's going to definitely remember that.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, this animal got attacked and survived, but afterwards you saw it just shake off, like it was coming out of the water, shaking all the water off its fur. And they're like, just through the shaking moment that this animal does, that's how it re-regulates its nervous system. So like one of my favorite modalities, like I really should study it 10 times more than what I have, but I do like basic tapping here. I learned it from a guest that I had, and I did it for 2 weeks straight just to see, like, with the breath work that I did. I just interviewed an EFT practitioner. So you like start here tapping and saying certain things, and it activates the meridian lines. And I've had so much fun like digging into that when those emotions come up, it's really empowering that I can dig into my tool bag and go, okay, I know how to help my body. There's a lot that you can do in your mind to kind of help, but as far as taking back control of my body has been one of the most empowering things that I've ever been able to learn from multiple practitioners.
Interesting that you guys just said that, because it made me think about something I was looking at in a book, but also with the energy points. So you were saying tap on here, it make you feel comfortable. You ever peep how like when someone is like in an office setting, or you have a supervisor or a boss, and they come on over to the office and they always lay their hand on the shoulder and they be like, hey, yeah, good job. Can you do something else? You see it a lot in movies and shows so I was reading it in the book and it said how, I guess apparently it's something in the subconscious where it's like, it makes you more comfortable and it makes you more submissive, from that gesture being there. And I don't know if it's the pressure on the shoulder here on the collarbone, or if it is the position with somebody sitting and someone standing and doing it. I'm not 100% sure. But when you just did that, it made me think about it. And I'm like, okay, so it's something in this area, that when it's activated and it's touched, it puts you into more of a zen, because I'm thinking of everything just associated with that. Even when you land like this, or in Egypt or Kemet, that resting position, it's so many different things that has to do with this area and has to do with, and I wonder if it is because of the heart area so close to it too, but it's like, it's something soothing about touching this area, something with this area. Even went on the semi off subject, but when you being intimate, this area is always the hot spot, so true. it's like, okay, so
0 to 100 real quick. Yes.
Right. So it's something about this area, the energy or it's something sensitive, in this area that it sends a good signals, good happy signals. And you had said about the meridian lines. It made me think about the cartoon. Just in case anybody ever want to look at it and see what it is, it's an old show called Naruto, that used to come out a couple of years ago or whatnot. But they go through the energy centers in the body as far as showing the meridian lines, and show how it flows. And I know depending on, what it is that you're doing, or for example, acupuncture, they do the back of the areas, but I haven't seen many places do the front areas around here in acupuncture. So I don't know. It just made me think about that, those things.
Well, I think it always goes back to kind of the ignorant way that we've been taught away from our bodies. And it's like, not really understanding how deep it goes into and how we can really take care of ourselves. Like, we don't have to outsource all of it to everybody else. Like, somatic healing's been really big as far as root chakra, and yoga's been really great with opening my hips. And there's times where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to go get on my mat. I'll put a good playlist on, light, whatever I want to breathe in while I'm doing it. And I'll get moving, I'll get in that flow state, and then I'll lean back my hips and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Where did that crying come from?
Emotional rush.
Yeah, it's always in the root chakra. And I don't want to be one of those people that always has these lit up, and then you're like, oh, I don't have to work on the bottom three at all. I don't have to ground. I don't have to do this.
You gotta work on everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird spiritual delusion is what I've noticed is also around people. I've met people in the older spiritual community too, where they don't do a fucking thing good for their body, and they're like, oh, it's okay, Jesus and Buddha are my guide. I'm like, no, that is start tapping my I'm like, oh no, because again, I do really big observe and don't attach, especially when my job is to observe all the different ways that you could heal and go back to source. But when you were talking about the neck part, it brought up a memory I had that in turn, almost made, it was a confirmation of me believing in energy work from people, because they talk about the energy sources in your hands and how your heart lights up, moves through your hands, kind of like Iron Man. But I used to hold massive amounts of anxiety in my chest and in my back. But I remember always waking up in the morning and feeling I would say I felt like I had a boulder on my chest. And I would it was so heavy. And And I had no knowledge of any of the stuff that I had now. So I just assumed that I had like an anxiety disorder or, you know, I was like depressed. And I was hanging out with one of my friends one time, and they just reached over to me and they put their hand like right here on me. And as soon as they touched me, I just went, oh my gosh, I can breathe. Like I can breathe in deep. And they took their hand off, and then the rock came back really quick because it was hard. It was like layers. It was like armor, right? And then as soon as they put their hand back again, I was like, what is going on? Like you have no definition for it, but you're like, I feel like it's melting. This feels so good. And then obviously like that was just like in passing. And I don't know like why it happened. I just remember they just like grabbed me and put their hand there, and I was like, wow, that's very comforting. Like it wasn't sexual or anything. It was just like, oh my God, I can breathe. Like I wonder how to get this off my chest, right? So
that's the fresh air.
Yeah, fast forward like, I don't know, 10 years later, and I'm learning energy work, and I'm like studying the meridian lines and emotional codes in your body and biowell and anything I can get my hands on to tie the energetic body and the physical body together, and like have, you know, like, oh, my shoulder hurts. Let me go check the energetic meridian line. Let me check this. Let me check the other side too, because it could be signaling something in the hip if it's pulling here. So you're looking at massage books, everything. And I got a flashback of when their hand went over my chest and it lifted this boulder off of me. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I've already had the direct experience. I do not have the definition for it. And now I have the definition, and there's no way I can deny this at this point. Like, energy work is absolutely beautiful. I think we're all vessels for it, as long as we, again, don't get delusional in the lineages that we pick up. The biggest bypassing thing that I've noticed, and again, I think it's a rite of passage, and I think it's something that someone needs to notice, is you have people taking so many different certifications and courses, and oh, I'm certified this, I'm certified in this, I'm certified in this, but they have like 0 practicing hours in it. They just practice it. They just got like online whatever they wanted, and they're like, hey, I'm certified and I'm able to do this. And I'm like, if you want to be a practitioner of some sort, you really have to embody that. Yeah. You have to embody the practice yourself. If you're going to do energy work, you really have to audit yourself, because there were times where like I would go out and do shows. I would have people that would book stuff with me. And then after that, I would be like, yep, shut my services off. Because I knew that I needed to like go back in and take care of some things on my end. So the people that do like readings all the time, or like full-time Reiki practitioners or whatever, I'm like, how are you actually able to do that all of the time? Because maybe I'm just not as attracted to it, but
it's draining.
It's so draining is what I have found. And I really like, I love understanding I'm a spiritual being just like you do, and understanding, you know, the deprogramming and how to be healthier, and, you know, kind of living in the matrix, knowing what's going on, man, damn the man, kind of like that aspect. But still, like, I love my human experience, right? Like, you love raising your daughter. I love raising my daughter. I like being with my family. I like going out and like going and doing normal things. It's just different now because I don't get to live in that illusion that I was like 4 years prior.
Yeah, that part sucks. That part sucks.
Yeah.
I will say, well, first thing, with the, you know how I was saying, I was like, for some experiences, if you don't have that experience, you won't have that enlightenment moment. And it may be something that may be negative, or something that may be uncomfortable or painful for you, you know, but it's a reason. Whatever it was that was on your chest, I don't know how I got there, you know, but I know that from what you just told me, it was a significant light switch that came on when they did the touch, and you was able to feel it. Things changed, you know. It was like, okay, it's something else going on here.
Something else.
You know?
And it is funny to know. I would just be like, that was really cosmic. I remember just saying that. I didn't think it was spiritual. I had no idea what energy work was at the time. I was like, that's extremely cosmic. That's all I know. And yeah, I'm gonna move on from this real quick, but
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't get to move on. It just like
Ah,
delayed and come up like a
yeah.
decade later. It's like, do you want to wake
Blew
up
up for
now?
you.
Do you want to wake up
Yeah.
now? And I was like, no,
But you
no.
know, it was something that was on point, and also too, you don't know how. Like I'm not sure of the person, you know, if you talk to them in a minute, but that experience for them could have took them to on a path to where now they've been practicing moving or working with energy like that since that moment, and how much advanced, you know, how much further along are they now, you know, because of that experience. We don't know how these little moments,
That's
and
very
you know,
true.
little things turn into big things and they become serious pivots on our path, you know. Another thing I say is a lot of people don't really like working with the lower energies for some reason. It's they're really like demonized, or you know, it's always the negative, you know, the lower, you know. But the thing about the those energies is they are actually, you have more gifts tied to those energies than the other ones, and you are, it's, I don't know if it's because we are in this physical realm, but those energies are extremely strong, especially the root. Like the root may be the strongest energy there is, you know, like it's may not, again, cartoons do a lot for me. It's like cartoons in that. They paint so many pictures when it comes to metaphysics.
Hmm.
And it's always a correlation, you know, certain things that they just never. Oh, my bad. I don't know why that happened. But it's certain things that they always do. So it's always in every episode or every type of cartoon, mostly for anime, they have the main character, and the main character always go through a self-realization moment, or he'll go through a dark period, you know. And when they go through the dark period, or they go through the heartbreak, or the moment when they lose control, they're always radiating a red frequency. Always, every time. It never fails. Every time they are radiating this red, loud frequency, and it's so much. It's always a lot of anger and passion and pain, and you know, focus. You know, it's not just all negative. It's a lot of pros and cons with it, but they're radiating it, you know. And once they move on from that moment, they conquer that, you know. And it'll be from most of the show, they'll be dealing with having to work on and conquering this. And as soon as they conquer this, they conquer it usually with some kind of heart-to-heart moment or a self-realization moment, or something that, you know, is like it's an enlightening moment, always in the heart area, you know, always having to do with empathy, not necessarily love, because love I say more up here, but when you're dealing with like just empathy, the connection to emotion, regardless of what the emotion it is, it's always right here. And then boom, they elevate, and now they on super level. You know, it never fails. It never fails. It's always, regardless of whatever the anime is, it's always that, you know that trajectory. And it makes me think about like real life, you know. For most people, they try to avoid the lower levels, you know. And I think we talked about it last time, but just briefly, for the lower three, dealing with the red, the orange, and the yellow, you know, the red being dealing with survival. You're dealing with just you. When you were born into this world, you were born into this world by yourself, just you. Even if you were born with, you know, you're a twin or a triplet, somebody came first, you know. So when you came into this world, it was just you, and you would bleed. So the red is there. And for most of the time in life, you are going to have problems or situations or things you want to accomplish, goals, you know, a passion, that it may be other people involved, but it's really all on you, you know. It's all on you, what you want in your life, you know. So that's when you're dealing with the red. And ironically, when you don't get that thing that you're working towards, you have a lot of fear from being a failure of not getting that thing. Most fear comes from us not having what we want, or not understanding something, you know. We're afraid of it. So when you move on from the self to the orange level, you are dealing with relationships, your first relationships with your parents, because they came together and brought you into this world. Other relationships with your children. You came together with someone and brought them into this world. So the orange area, dealing with your siblings, dealing with your parents, dealing with your children, dealing with your partners, the closest people to you that emotionally you feel some type of way about. You know, it's the people that can push these buttons like nobody else. Nobody else can push these buttons. Whether it's a love button, you know, when you see your daughter smile, you know, even after she just you all day, or if it's you know, something that your parent used to irk your nerves with that they've been saying to you since you were little, you know, it makes you feel some type of way. But no one else has the ability to push these buttons like those people. So that's dealing with the orange area. It's the creativity or the creation energy, or some people call it the sexual kundalini energy, because it is the genital area, you know. Then the next, you're dealing with the yellow energy, which is more of the ego. You're dealing with that alpha, like in a pack, you know. Once you get to like I said, first is red, which is self. Orange is dealing with your closest relationships. Yellow is ego, but you're also dealing with the world. You know, you're being more public, more social, you know, social status. For some, they rise at the peak of they field, you know, they the man, you know, or the woman, you know, or other pronouns, you know, but they are that person. They at the top, you know, they know what it is that they talking about, and people acknowledge it for them. They got the glow. They are the alpha in the pack. And for a lot of people, they stop there, you know, like when it comes to the you know, for yellow, most people want to be financially well off, or they want to achieve a status, you know, just so they can project it to the world, you know. So for most people, is they there. But after you move on, before you get to dealing with the heart, you know, I feel it's another area, you know, the Dantine area. You have that connection to the spiritual side. You have that connection to it being something more than just this physical. Or it could be something in nature. It could be something with the elements. It could be the animals. It's something that's getting you out of the man-made system that, you know, is everything man-made, as far as the statuses, the position, the you know, the finances, or, you know, the position of power financially, or whatever that may be, you know. And when you start dealing with the lime green, I would like to call it, before you get to the green, you're dealing with it's the connection to the natural world. You're starting to be connected to the natural world. And after you start to be connected to the natural world, and also why I think that it is the Dantine, because when you are astral projection, you know, the belly button is the silver cord that brings you back, or what they say is attached to it. That silver cord is literally 2 inches above where your Dantine is. So I know it must be some kind of connection there. But before or after you start connecting more to the natural world, like you have empathy for, or you are connecting with the animals, you're acknowledging. Then you start to get to the empathy level, or what they call the heart. So now you can feel emotions. And the reason why I said earlier, it's not necessarily the love zone, you know, or I feel like, I don't know if it's, I don't think that it is. I don't really feel that area is just strictly dealing with love. I feel like you're dealing with every emotion. You have the ability to connect and empathize with someone else, regardless of what emotion it is. They sad, you're acknowledging the sadness. They're joyful, you're acknowledging the joy. They mad, you're acknowledging the anger. You know, that allows you to connect to everything, and it doesn't matter if it's a human or an animal. And even I really feel when it's a strong connection and it's open, it doesn't even matter if it could be something like, and this gets a little off, but you know, like if you've seen a animal being abused, you would feel some type of way. If you seen a child or a person being abused, you would feel some type of way. If you seen a robot being abused, you get what I mean? Or if you seeing something, or it could be a tree, it could be a plant. When you seeing it being abused, you feel some type of way because you like, come on, like, why are you? You are connected to it, and you are realizing it's life there. It's something there that is saying it should be treated a certain kind of way. That's how you know this is open. Regardless of whatever it is, you have a level of respect for it. It's a level of like, you're not just gonna just do anything to it because you don't feel that is real. When people don't have this open, or they have not started to make that that connection to nature, you can't even see anybody else like another man or another woman, or you cannot even see them as a person, to respect. You could just walk by them. There's so many things, that can be done on a like out of pocket, messed up level because you cannot establish a connection with them. If you see them how you see yourself, you wouldn't disrespect them, or you wouldn't cause any harm to them because you see it as yourself. It's the law of one. Everything is you, So once you start getting here, then you start moving up and you start getting into the higher levels. And the reason why I said I feel love is somewhere between your crown and your third chakra, because on the color spectrum, how it goes from purple, and then purple kind of fade out, and it turns to pink, and then it turns to red all over again. So from what I've come across, the crown is your gold area. It's not really on the color spectrum map. You kind of got to find it. But when it goes from your third eye here to, it's like right at the where your forehead line is, like it would be like wearing a tiara. It's something. And I will say over the last 6 months to 8 months, I've been feeling so much energy there when I do anything with something that has to deal with love, when working with certain entities or deities, or anything with the color pink. Like, it's something here, and I'm like, okay, that's not a coincidence, because on the color spectrum, I see where is where, and how they have it on, the chakra lines. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking that because it's a different feeling here than just being able to feel. Like, love and empathy is completely different. Like, love and joy it's a overwhelming, happy, incredibly like exciting kind of ecstasy like feeling. That's different than just, like, oh, I like somebody, or, like, oh yeah, I got love for somebody. It's a different kind of feeling. That makes sense.
That brings up, there's so many ways I could take this. So many ways, because you bring up so many good points, but especially misconstruing feelings. Like I've seen the, obviously, root to crown chakra, the colors, but there's also an emotional color spectrum. So I find it interesting, like a lot of the, lower vibrational ones that we don't want to talk about are in those lower chakra centers. But when you talked about like the seeing and the feeling are completely different, there are meditations that I like to do. Super simple, 6 breaths in, 6 breaths out. I found this from Greg Braden, and he was talking about how like the heart and mind need to be in line to not only connect those energy centers, but especially if like you have clear senses or you understand that they're activated, if you would like to work on them and not have them shut down, especially in your line of work, intuition helps because you see stuff and you want to be able to not give them the answers, but be like, hey, this is what I see, introduce it to your intuition. If it's not for you, kick it out. Yeah. But as soon as you did this, it reminded me of, one, humans are the only thing on earth that can be disconnected from their head and their heart space and survive. So, I mean, like, that's scary when you think, like, if you actually tap into your body, like, is my heart open because your heart is going to be the receiver of everything that you're wanting. So if you're sitting here going, I want this, I want this, oh, it's not coming, and oh, how am I going to get it? Well, one, you're vibrating at a very like worrisome, fearful, lack mindset frequency, and your heart's closed. So anything that's like coming around like a boomerang, right? It's closed. Keep going. Yep, go. Nope, still closed. But then
so they can't connect the signal.
Can't connect
like
the
Wi-Fi.
signal. Thank you for saying that. That's such a great way to say it. But then you were talking about all the different ways. You were basically referring to clear empathy. And I brought this up on our last thing, and I found the page because I think this is good just to highlight for people that are listening. Clear empathy, it's clear relating. There are several types, each of which is a base and a different chakra. So this is a brief description. It is from Cindy Dale's Raise Clairaudience Energy. And it says there's physical empathy, sensing others' physical energy in our own body. That's going to be from the root chakra. Emotional empathy, feeling others' emotions inside ourselves. That's going to be the second chakra. Mental empathy, knowing what others know. Third chakra. Relational empathy, awareness of others' relational and healing needs, which you definitely have that in your line of work. It's the fourth chakra. And then the spiritual empathy, which is sensitivity to others' spiritual desires and needs. And I think that's a really powerful one because there's so many times where unchecked desires fester, like they try to take on a different identity, like it's an authentic thing that you want or you need and you're working for. And that's almost like the comparison between like love and lust. Like you think you're in love with this person and oh my gosh, they're meeting all of these needs for me, right? And then you finally break off and get away and go, oh shit, especially on a self-love journey. You're like, that wasn't love, that was lust. Like they were filling things in me that I did not know how to fill in myself. So I was telling myself I was in love because it's like an emotional addiction to somebody, because at the end of the day, you don't want to do your own work, but you didn't know you had work to be done.
Right.
And I think that it's just so fascinating how they honestly like layer over each other. So I was thinking about like back in school, especially when we were younger, we had the old projectors and they would have like the papers that would slide over each other, you know, to like write. And like, especially in science, they would have this graph and then they would layer a more detailed graph over and a more detailed graph over. And that's what I tell a lot of people. A lot of this work is translated differently. But between clear senses, helping your physical body, understanding your energetic body, and even like up to auric field, they're just papers that you're adding more detail and more descriptions and getting more comfortable with. And I don't know if you work the same, especially with your intuition. The more that I study, then like literally somebody will come in where I'm like, I just learned about this. And now I see it, you know, like I'm more educated now, and they'll take the information that I've learned and I'm allowed to access it intuitively when I'm working with people. And I just find that extremely fascinating. For anybody on our YouTube and TikTok, there it is. Get that book. It's amazing. It'll help you. It'll help you not feel crazy in a crazy world. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yeah. So
go ahead. I was going to say, because you made me think about, with the what was it? It was something that you had just said. It had made me think about something. It was with the I don't want to lose it. What was it? It was something with, I think it was with one of the Claires. It'll come back to me.
You're gonna have to message me. Me. I remember, or you'll message me in a week. I remember what I was gonna say about clear empathy.
Right. It was something. I'm like, what was it? It was something relevant too. It's gonna irk me.
I hate when that happens. They go away. You're like, it fits so perfect in the conversation.
It did.
Well, we've had quite a conversation, anyways. Even if I were listening in on this, I'd be like, dude, can I talk to this guy? This is the channel and the insight that you have. I absolutely love. I also love your website, so I want you to tell everybody where they can find you if they would like to work with you in person and online.
I'm at the energycoach.com, so it's spelled differently than regular energy. It's INNERG coach.com instead of the regular energy coach. Or you can look me up on Instagram at Master Bey. I also have some courses for energy work, breathing, shadow work, and never giving up. So yeah, we're doing a lot of work as far as with the energy bodies and getting the emotional control, emotional control through breathing and energy work is probably the focus, because I feel like that again it sees off to everything else, whether you're dealing with something physically or mentally or whatever it is. You know, when you can do that, get the breathing and the energy, you can fix most things, you know. So
the breath work is very important, and I love everything you said today. I'm so glad that we did this, and I see why we were so excited to have this conversation together.
All right. Yeah, it was on point. I like it.
I like it. Well, you're welcome back in the safe space whenever you want to come back and educate us, talk to us again. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we didn't even really get deep into things. We got a lot more stuff to talk about. I feel like
we do. We might have to take it off air sometimes and be like, "Hey, you seen some trippy shit lately? Tell me about it."
Yeah, no, seriously. Oh wait, it was something I actually was going. It was something with the dolphins. I think we had talked about before with the consciousness level as far as everything becoming more alert and more aware, and it was something I had just seen with the dolphin. They were swimming, and I guess they were taking each person off one by one, and it came across this lady. And this lady, she had on bright pink, and they was assuming that the dolphin wouldn't take her because she had on bright pink. But apparently, after she took off, it still wasn't. They found out that she was pregnant, and the dolphin didn't want to move her like that because she was pregnant. And when they took her over to the side, the dolphin was like real nurturing and loving with her, and real. And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. But the radiant and the energy, so yeah, that just made me think about that.
Even like body energy or like body language in your dogs, like you can attribute that to them reading energy or sensing it.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely blows my mind. I know what my dogs need just by the way they shake their bodies half the time and look at me. I'm like, no, you don't need to go outside. You want fresh water. Cool. Oh, you want a treat? Great. You want a belly rub? But it's amazing. There's a lot we really don't know. I know we act like super advanced, like we know everything, but even like we don't know what the hell is going on in our oceans. Don't even get me started on Antarctica. There's so much. You have to come back. We just have to keep talking about what we've found.
That's definitely true. Yeah, because I feel like most definitely the when it comes to animals, and I think also when it comes, that's why I was saying the lower three energies, your primal, more primal self probably has the strongest senses when it comes to it, because it's your animal instincts. Animal instincts are extremely, like, that's where the psychic shit is. So the more you dealing with those energies, the more you're aware of the feelings in the environment. Like a deer can feel when it's, because the senses go together. Your hearing, especially your hearing, your smell, and your sight, they all go together. So if you ever get a chance and you practice in like energy work, especially with your eyes closed, when you get to the point to where you're starting to see with your eyes closed, you'll realize that sound and frequency, or sound is frequency, and frequency paints the picture while your eyes is closed, like sonar. So you'll be able to see with your eyes closed based on the sound in the environment. It's like when something happens around you, you will see the outline of it, even though your eyes are closed. It's crazy, but it's real.
I know what you're talking about. When I started seeing colors in my meditations, I went to one of my mentors and I was like, what's happening? And she was like, oh, let's talk about your third eye activation. Because I had already obviously dealt with in my awakening, but I was trying to ground myself. I did not want to float off into the ether. I was really like, okay, this happened to me. This is real. Okay. I didn't know that if you weren't trying to attain enlightenment, that this could happen to an individual. So
nah.
it's still the craziest story of my life. But my friends, if you want to check out Grandmaster Bey, please hit the description below and you can hit connect with Grandmaster Bey. Get your shadow work, get your breath work on. And I mean, obviously, like, yeah, schedule a one-on-one with him. This dude's awesome. I can't wait to have you back.
Yeah.
For sure. Yes, you're coming back. I already know it.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, before we get out of here, though, I have a little bit of Goose live for you. I think I checked these guys out in Kansas City with my concert family, but you know how I love me some Goose and I love bringing you some music. So check this out and we'll see you on the next episode. Love you all.